Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. All right. So welcome, brave educators, to the laboratory of FrankenOER. Woo! It is Halloween month. Today, we are not afraid to delve into the mysteries of creation. Together, we'll bring your OER ideas to life from the parts and pieces already out there. No need to fear the unknown. And if you can't tell already, it is Halloween month. And I'm going to ask for your grace now and lean into the Frankenstein theme with me because it was a lot of fun including that. And I actually, before I even came up with this presentation, I was already calling my OER Frankie. So thank you for leaning in with me here. All right. I got this. I got this. All right. So my name is Carolyn McGary, and I'm going to be your mad scientist for the day. There's no lightning or mysterious contraptions, but just a room of enthusiastic educators ready to stitch together something new from the old. A little about me. I'm a little odd. I am an adjunct. So what I'm talking about isn't part of my requirements at the college. It's a passion project for me. I'm very much an input learner relator person in my strengths finder, and so I like taking in lots of information and synthesizing it and sending it back out. It's pretty okay for educators to have this, right? Something else relevant, because I talked about it in the description for this. I teach construction, project, and facility management. So it is not something that has a lot of OER out there. So that's what started me or sparked this journey for me. And if you had asked me 2 years ago to write an educational course book on facility management, I would have laughed in your face. I'm not kidding. I was like, no, this is way too hard. This is way too much work. This is way too big. I heard it takes like years to do. This is massive. This is scary. This is a beast. I'm too lazy for that. I also had a lot of crazy misconceptions about OER. And I'm not going to lie. Has anybody else had this feeling when somebody says, I want to make an OER, or hey, you should make this into an OER book? Has anybody else felt that same thing? Yeah, it's scary, right? So let's write in the chat, the folks that are on, or raise your hand or shout out. What was scary for you? Why was it so scary for you? Or what's currently scary?
Anybody in person? No time.
No time. What else we got?
Don't know where to start.
Oh, Carolyn Heath said other people seeing my work. I don't consider myself a writer. I don't know if you guys can see these comments up here. Kathy doesn't consider themselves a writer. I don't consider myself a SME, a subject matter expert. I tell my students all the time, I'm not the subject matter expert. I'm just a talking head at the front of the room. Congratulations. So yeah, and what's one of the other things we're thinking about here? We're all thinking about that big final result, that big monster at the end, right? But let me ask it in a different way. Did Dr. Frankenstein build his masterpiece creation in a day? Was that creation even his first experiment in bringing new life to what was considered dead? No, he started with like a crow or a cat or something. Who knows what? He experimented with smaller pieces first before he figured out how to make the bigger creation. So it's not near as scary as we think, right? So what's really the scary part here? Yes, finally a Halloween themed presentation. You're welcome. So what is really the scary part? What do we really fear? The failure and the unknown. It's the mystery of it, right? Not fully understanding what it is exactly that we're doing. That's teaching, isn't it? It is for me. I'm great at that one. So that's the goal then for us in the next, I don't know, 15 more minutes, is to kind of demystify some of this, because if we can make it less scary, it loses some of that terror, right? Makes it a little easier for us to do. We're going to talk about fostering collaboration, because working together is also less scary than working alone. Absolutely. Having buddies. Even Dr. Frankenstein had assistants. And I'll focus more on the adapting and the remixing aspect, just because that's what I am working with, because there isn't anything out there that's facility management specific, and I'll talk about that a little bit here. But we're going to look at adapting and remixing. All right. So what do we really need to get started? We need to find our parts, right? Got a hand, got an arm, got a leg from over here. Sorry. So let's open our virtual vault of resources and think about what OER parts we can gather to breathe new life into our curriculum. Think of this like scavenging the best pieces from that OER graveyard to create our next big thing. So those of us that are online, there's the QR code. There is a link in there. It's going to take you to a page. There's also the QR code here on the screen, so folks can see that. But this was actually my first big aha moment in OER. For some dumb reason, my brain was stuck on this idea. You know, we're told when we're creating our syllabus, we're putting things in the we call it the curriculog. They say, what book are you using? Singular, right? They say, okay, what book are you using? And then when I went and developed my intro to construction class, they're like, do you want to use OER? And I'm like, all right, sure. And they're like, all right, which OER do you want to use? And for some reason, it stuck in my head that I could only use one. I was like, well, I'm hosed, because this only has a little bit of this and this one only has a little bit of that. And so in my head, it was crazy. I thought I could only reference one. Well, my OER librarian are there any librarians in the room? Yoo, hi, my lovelies. She disabused me of that notion, and so I asked what I could do. And she said it could be as big or small of a part as I liked. If I could find it, it would be there. Is it sharing for you guys? Okay, cool. So that's what I did. And so this link goes to a little resource tracker. This was something I got shared with, I think, during my CC certificate course, where it was easier to track what OER I was finding and trying to use. We can't share double screens here in the room, so I'm going to describe it to you in case you aren't looking at it. But it's a really helpful tool. This is an excerpt from my facility management course research. FM's a little bit of everything. If you guys aren't familiar with facility management, once you build the building, somebody has to take care of it. So it's the team in this hotel managing the cleaning and the event management and the temperature and making sure everything's working for everybody. From before it's finished being built till we tear this building down. So it's super cool, but it's a little bit of everything. We are super generalists. We're the decathletes of the built environment. So even though there isn't a specific OER out there for facility management yet, there is OER out there for things like communications, customer service, finance, business cases, strategy and leadership. These are all the things I'm teaching my students in our facility management class. And I was, once they told me I could pick I could take this little piece from over here and I could take this little piece from over there. And I said, like Frankenstein? And so Frankie started to be born. So you'll see headers like resource type, the resource name, the license that's attached to it. I added a couple of pieces in there. I'll reference this a couple more times during the presentation here. But once I started looking for those smaller elements, I found a lot more to choose from. So think about your own course needs here. Can you split the needs down further? What is the smallest part? And is there something similar already out there that you can find? Think about the types of ancillaries that you need, right? What other interdisciplinary connections are typically made within your class? Can you make that perhaps, are those connections out there something that has more OER? And then you can use that and take that and play with it a little bit to make it work for your class. We can make those associations. It works. All right. So once we have the parts, now what do? We stitch them. We haven't brought it to life yet, but we're stitching them together. Remixing in OER is like Frankenstein's monster, right? We're going to take the pieces from the different places. We're going to make them fit together. We're going to sew them a little bit. The beauty is in how all these parts come together to form something really fresh and impactful is what I'm really excited about with mine. Not ready for a full monster though. Don't be afraid yet. Don't get too scared. That's okay, because keep thinking about those smaller parts. How can you integrate just one crow or cat into your course? What's one reading you could do? What's one activity or assignment you could do? All right, and then some of us are familiar with the 5 R's. Some of us might not be. Is this in the front of the camera? But back to that resource tracker that we were just looking at. So you'll notice I added the links for the 3 resources on leadership and management. Plus my own, I used those 3 plus my own elements to create a reading for my students in my class that talked about leadership and management, specifically for facility management. I used like a paragraph out of one, and then I used like this little comparison out of the second one, and it works. And it works. And it's not even a really long reading. It's like 2,500 words. It's super short. But it made sense for me. And like I said, you can remix if that's, a little trickier. You can do things like just pull something in and reuse it. You could pull something in and just revise it a little bit. And that's all you have to do with it. All right. Just like Dr. Frankenstein needed Igor's help, OER creation's best done together to bring it to life. You don't need to go it alone. So think about how you can collaborate, because collaboration can spark some ideas, right? To smooth out any of those rough stitches in the creation. So there's simple things, and this is the very simple version of my steps to creation. I went out and I found resources. I was using that the resource tracker. I determined whether or not I was going to reuse it or remix it. I'm doing a lot of remixing to readapt it to facility management specific content. And then I'm sharing it mostly within my class currently. And then I'm getting feedback on how I can improve that. And then I've been sharing it with other people within facility management. So, hey, does this accurately cover the leadership and management aspect of facility management if you were talking about it to a college student who has no idea what you're talking about? It's it's a trickier question than you think. So yeah, finding the resources, focus on that collaborative process. So like how can you ask people to review one reading, 2,500 words? Can you ask them questions about it? Maybe you want to ask somebody specifically for a review. Can you review this and tell me if it sounds inclusive enough? I had that specific question that I went through. Is this inclusive? Does this cover the general content that we need it to? Does this meet my course objectives? Can you over here review this for accessibility purposes? Because I don't have to be the subject matter expert. Who else said they weren't the expert? We don't feel like we're smart enough. This is the whole thing. We collaborate and then we find other people who we feel are smart. I bet you they don't think they're the smartest either, but they're always willing to help. All right. And then sometimes when it comes to challenges, right? Sometimes it feels like the villagers are chasing us with pitchforks when it comes to copyright concerns, but we don't want to worry about. We don't want to get too crazy about this. We can avoid these pitfalls and focus on breathing life into our creation without fear. So, what are some common challenges you guys have had in putting together any sort of OER? Got a couple. Trying to watch the chat. Yep. I know, I can see it when it first comes up. Oh, here we go.
So I love this analogy so much. I talk a lot about curating. That's language I use on my campus. I think one of the challenges when it comes to bringing the monster to life is how to organize the parts in a way that are navigatable for students, right? So it's not just monstrous link soup, right? But like, how do you actually present and curate and kind of like situate all of these resources you've pulled together?
Absolutely. I love that one. I am guilty of that as well. Throwing the fire hose at them.
One thing that some of our faculty get confused about is the combination of the different Creative Commons licenses. What does share alike mean? If one thing is share alike, mixing it with something that doesn't have that, how do you? So I would say from using a variety of OER resources, how to combine those under the correct license that fits with what those creators want.
Absolutely. That was mid-creation here. One of the actual things that I ran into, it's like I planted you in the audience. No. Because when I was going through this over the summer, I took the CC course to learn more about the Creative Commons licensing and how all of it works. And when I was doing it, I was learning about the remix option and how the various types of CC licenses work, which ones are compatible with each other to remix, meaning you take it and you blend it together and you make a new thing, which ones you could do that with and which ones you couldn't, and which ones overall, if I wanted to publish it as a book, could be included and probably shouldn't be included together. Back to the resource list, if you guys still have that spreadsheet referenced, you'll notice that I highlighted the different, or I color coded the different licenses, different colors, because BY is like super easy, so it's in green. The SA is like yellow, and then the NC was orange because I was like, oh no. When I was going through that, the NC and the SA aren't allowed to remix together, which means in my class, and this is how I'll help the very simple version of demystifying this. If I'm just teaching my one class and I want a reading and I want to talk about, I want to include the resource from SA and I want to include the resource that's NC, I can't remix them on the same page together. I can have two separate readings and I can include it in my class just fine. But if my purpose is to publish an OER for FM, I decided to take out all the NC resources. if that makes sense. Here we go. Okay. People are asking questions. So that was my fun one. And then you'll see I highlighted one resource in red. I left that in there just for reference because it was a non-derivative video. Non-derivatives are not allowed to be used in a remix. I can have it, but it needs to be very, very clearly stated. So
I actually have a quick question. The same one that Christina Moon actually has on the chat.
what platform? Can you guys clarify? I'm using.
Canvas, LibreText.
Oh, my classes are in Canvas currently. And then what I did was my test case, my crow or my cat, was an intro to construction class. I built it formally with our learning and development group, our instructional designers on campus. It made it look pretty. It had videos and everything. They gave me permission to use my videos. And I got a scholarship from the Colorado Department of Higher Ed and to have a Pressbook license. And then I knew what you were going to say. And I actually hired somebody to help me transfer the information from Canvas into the Pressbook format. It was super cool and made me really, really excited. And nice. And then I have not looked into the remixer in LibreText. Yeah. I don't, does it remix though, Liza? Is the question. Yep. So I used Pressbooks to build mine. And then I've applied for another one. We'll see if I get another license because I'm currently in the formal development process for the FM class. I'm getting a thumbs up.
Any last questions?
So when you've remixed materials, do you then on Canvas put it on the commons so that other folks can adopt?
Yes, I did put the construction one out there. And then when I'm done with my facility management one, I'm going to put that out there. And then this one, since we're almost at time, right? We got less than 2 minutes. This one is just a collaborative document. You can ask and answer questions. So you want to roll up your own sleeves, get a little mad scientist. Think about what you could do. So what's so scary about it? What's holding you back? What's one thing you could do today to overcome that fear? What gaps or unmet needs have you identified in your existing resources for your field? And if you broke down those needs further, is there something out there you could do to adapt, adopt, remix? And how are some ways you could collaborate to create OER? Maybe you've already found some friends here that can help you. Cool. And that was it. We ended right on time. Sorry, I'll go back to that page in case you guys wanted to pull that up again. And then if you're in person and you want to badge